The Sacramento Kings learned a valuable lesson last night. Desperate teams do desperate things as the Warriors climb themselves back into the series as they bully the Kings 114-97 in Game 3, but the Kings are still leading 2-1 going into a critical Game 4. I'm going to be breaking down this loss for the Kings and a great win for the Warriors. Kings fans, let's ride. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for an all-new episode of the post-game podcast of the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Sacramento Kings. This is Let 'Em Know Kings! And welcome to episode 11 of Let 'Em Know Kings, the post-game podcast of the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Sacramento Kings. This is going to be the first of two episodes that I'm going to give to you guys today, because the first episode, which is right now, I'm going to recap the unfortunate loss for the Sacramento Kings in Game 3 as they got bullied out of the gym by the Golden State Warriors 114-97 in their Game 3, and later tonight, I'm going to be recapping the Cleveland Cavaliers Game 3, and hopefully Cleveland can win in New York, which I expect the New York crowd to be a little bit raucous, like the Golden State Warrior crowd was last night, and the Cleveland Cavaliers can take a 2-1 lead going into Game 2. But now it's about Sacramento, and unfortunately, they've learned the hard way that overconfidence is a sin, and the Golden State Warriors played like the true champions that they are. Before we get into that, though, I'm your host, Skylar Weisberg. It is my honor and my privilege to be your host today, and you can find Let 'Em Know Kings, which is free and available across 7 great platforms: Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, and Anchor.fm/CLESK, Anchor.fm/CLESK. You can download the free Anchor app on your iTunes or Google Play stores, which is now Spotify for podcasters. It is a different name, but the same kind of vibe and energy. You can listen to this show on that particular app as well. If you can please give the show a follow on the platforms that I just mentioned moments ago. You can turn on your notifications so you know about the next episode, which drops later tonight after Cavs and Knicks Game 3. If you could please rate and spread the word out to your friends about Let 'Em Know Kings, I would truly appreciate that. And again, I thank each and every one of you so much for tuning in as we recap the unfortunate loss for the Sacramento Kings in Game 3, 114-97 over the Golden State Warriors. Before we recap this game, I have a little story to tell y'all. And it's a little, it's not a funny story, but it's a little ironic given the game. I was going to record this episode of Let 'Em Know Kings immediately after game number 3. But your host got sick. He literally got sick during the game. Now, I was at my dad's house for a couple of days, and I had a little bit of a scratchy throat. I thought I could overcome that, and with a little help of the Ricola cough drops that I had, I sort of found a way to overcome that. But during the game, I had a little bit of a stuffy nose. I was like sneezing all over the place. It was not the Rona, thank goodness. I think it was just the allergies. Maybe it's the pollen outside that got me. So I just took NyQuil at like 11 p.m. And then after the game, I watched a little bit of my hockey team, the Vegas Golden Knights, and I just knocked myself out. I was out like a light, and as you can tell, my voice sounds a little better compared to what I was dealing with in the 6 Sunrise Drive studios. I'm now back in the Clark Five Lupine Way Studios. And I can honestly say that I'm a little better now to record compared to what I was last night. But not enough about me. Enough about me. So basically, what I'm saying is the Sacramento Kings literally made me sick last night. It's not just the game that made me sick, it's the team's effort that made me sick. Now, let me say this. Kudos and all the credit to the Golden State Warriors. Kudos and credit to the Golden State Warriors because they were without two key players last night. We all know that Draymond Green was suspended, aka the punk. You know what? I'm not even gonna say it. I'm not even mad about the loss of this game because I knew this was going to happen. I knew that the Golden State Warriors coming into this game were the desperate team. They were back at home, and knowing that the Golden State Warriors played well at home, they were going to cook the Kings, and that is exactly what they did. So I'm going to give them all the credit, all the respect, all the kudos because they are the reigning, defending, undisputed NBA champions, mind you, and they played like true champions. They were without Draymond Green, but they were also without another defensive player. They were without Gary Payton II, who was, like me, a little under the weather. The difference is he was out of the game due to the illness. I watched the game despite the illness, but despite all of that, the Warriors' combination of shooting, defense, and taking care of the basketball swarmed, I should say, the Sacramento Kings. And basically, the Warriors beat the Kings at their own game. I'm not afraid to say that. I'm not afraid to say that because in games 1 and 2, the Sacramento Kings looked like the better team. In this game last night, the Warriors clearly flipped the script. They flipped the script on the Sacramento Kings, and Sacramento didn't even know how to respond to that. Leading up to this game, the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, now mind you, he is an NBA champion, Steve Kerr, shared with his players a John Wooden quote. Be quick, but don't hurry. Coming into this game, he challenged the Warriors to take better shots and be more careful with the ball, to limit turnovers, and here's another key, to rebound. Rebound hard and with heart. And the reigning champions responded to that challenge. They basically understood the assignment and they dominated this game. They absolutely dominated game number 3. Now, given the box score, it was close. It was close to the point at some points, but it was a wire-to-wire victory for the Golden State Warriors. Kavon Looneys, after this game, said, "We're a team with a lot of pride. We know how to respond when our backs are against the wall. We always usually show up, and all credit to Golden State, they did exactly just that." One of my biggest worries coming into this game was the Sacramento Kings, who had the number 1 offense in the NBA, mind you. The number 1 offense in NBA, the best offense in the NBA history, going back to the 2001-2002 Sacramento Kings, who had the greatest show on court. They had this Princeton-style offense that ran a lot of screening action. They didn't do any of that. They didn't do any of that in this game. Now, mind you, it was a cold start to this game as both teams were comfortable with shooting threes. Now, speaking of three-point shooting, where in the heck was the three-point shooting for the Sacramento Kings, bro? How could you only make 32 threes this majority of the series? Shot a poor 28% from the field from three-point range, and still be up 2-1 in this series. That's mind-blowing. That is mind-blowing, and that is shocking. Considering the fact that you are the number 1 offense in the NBA, you should expect to make a lot more shots, right? Wrong. The Kings couldn't buy a bucket from three-point range. They couldn't buy a bucket from close range. They couldn't buy a bucket anywhere. And here's another thing that I'm going to give the Golden State Warriors credit for. They swarmed the paint. They swarmed the paint with force. Domantas Sabonis couldn't buy a bucket there. Malik Monk and Davion Mitchell, who were excellent in the first two games, couldn't buy a bucket in the paint because you know why? The Golden State Warriors saw what the Sacramento Kings did in the film for both of these games, and they said, you know what? Let's beat them at their own game. Let's exploit the Sacramento Kings for what they did in the first two games. And guess what? Like the champions that they are, they did that. And I don't want to hear how the referees were not giving Domantas Sabonis any calls. I don't even want to hear it because Mike Brown did warn us in the pregame press conference, I should say. He warned us that momentum was going to shift. He warned us that now the Golden State Warriors are now the home team for the next two games. The momentum was going to possibly shift in the Golden State's favor, and that is exactly what happened. Harrison Barnes, who played for the Golden State Warriors in 2015-2016, said, you have to understand that these guys aren't going to lay down. They have a lot of pride. They won a championship. Did the Sacramento Kings understand that? In some ways, they did not. I think the Sacramento Kings came into this game a little bit overconfident because they were up 2-0. They protected home court, and they thought, just like I did, now I'm going to blame myself for this. I'm going to blame myself for you guys to believe that you could be a little bit overconfident going into this series. Mike Brown said this, if we're overconfident, we are going to get our behinds handed to us. And that is exactly what they did. All credit to the Golden State Warriors, which now makes game 4 on Sunday really, really critical. Because if the Sacramento Kings win game 3 or win game 4, you have an opportunity to close the book of the dynasty of the Golden State Warriors in your home floor, which Sacramento, for the first two games, has played really well on their home floor. Now, given the fact that the Sacramento Kings had the best road record in the entire Western Conference, this is the first and only the first loss for the Sacramento Kings in the playoffs in 17 years. I'm going to give them a little bit of leeway because maybe they were overwhelmed. Maybe they were overwhelmed by the energy of the Golden State crowd. The energy of the Golden State crowd was incredible. Not as incredible as it was for Sacramento, but incredible nonetheless. And here's the thing that I want to rant on before I get into the stats. How in the heck can the Golden State Warriors say to the passionate Sacramento Kings fans, leave your cowbells at home? That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. That is for me to believe that Golden State wanted all the momentum going into this game. They wanted all of the momentum to get the Sacramento Kings out of their game, and all credit to Golden State. They did exactly just that. They shot 40% from the field tonight, Golden State, 32% from 3, 16 threes made for Golden State, 11 threes for Sacramento. The free throw percentage was also telling. The Golden State Warriors shot 18 for 23, 16 for 23 for Golden State, 78 versus 69%. You know who's going to win the battle. But the biggest difference that I had in this game was the offensive rebounding for Golden State. Golden State had 59 rebounds last night. They had 18 of those offensive rebounds, what led to 24 second chance opportunities. If you give a championship team like Golden State that many second chance opportunities, you're not winning games. I don't care if it's regular season. I don't care if it's postseason. I don't care if it's summer league and these starting lineups play. If you give the Golden State Warriors second chance opportunities, you are not going to win any game against Golden State. Another factor is points off turnovers. The Sacramento Kings had 15 turnovers tonight. They allowed 22 points off the 15 turnovers, and the assists were really telling. Out of the 40 field goals made for the Golden State Warriors, the Warriors assisted in 31 of them. For the Kings, they assisted for the 35 field goals, 21 of them were assisted by. That's really efficient basketball for the Golden State Warriors. And the Warriors, like the champions that they are, played like true champions last night. And the Sacramento Kings are now going to be in a desperate situation going into Game 3. Steph Curry led the Golden State Warriors with 36 points tonight. He was 6 for 12 from three-point range, 6 for 6 from the foul line, with 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. Klay Thompson had 13 points. Jordan Poole, who started for Draymond Green, had 16 points. Andrew Wiggins, who had another standout game, that had 20 points with 7 rebounds, 3 assists. But the player of the game for me was Kavon Looneys. This guy only had 4 points, but here's a really telling stat. He had 20 rebounds, including 9 of those offensive. The Sacramento Kings got exposed tonight because they didn't know what the words box out mean. They couldn't stop Kavon Looneys from getting a rebound, and it showed. It showed. You need to box out against the champions. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you are the Kings. I don't care if you are the Bucks. If you don't box out with Kavon Looneys in the paint, you're going to get beat. Now, for the Kings, De'Aaron Fox led the Sacramento Kings in scoring with 26 points. He had 6 rebounds. Who had 9 rebounds, I should say, with 9 assists. Domantas Sabonis, who looked extremely rattled, had a double-double with 15 points and 16 rebounds. He also had 4 assists and 2 steals. Keegan Murray, I don't think he's ready for the playoffs, man. I think Keegan Murray is not ready. Now, granted, he's a rookie, and this is his first playoff series. I get all of that. But having said all of that, I think some series are not for everybody, and I think Keegan Murray is not ready. Now, if the Golden State Warriors or the Sacramento Kings had a guy in Matthew Dellavedova who knows what it's like to win a championship, who knows what it's like to defend people, then maybe you should put Matthew Dellavedova in the starting lineup instead of Keegan Murray. But Delly has an injury with a broken hand. But Keegan Murray, I have every confidence in him. I'm going to give him a little bit of a benefit of the doubt because this is his first playoff series and it's going to take time for him to figure it out. But, as I said before, this makes Game 4 a critical game for both teams. For Golden State, if you win Game 4, you basically have every ounce of momentum. You are going to give the Golden State Warriors all the life that they lost in the first 2 games. Now, if you are the Kings, this is a must-win situation for Sacramento, honestly. Because if you lose Game 4 on Sunday, then your safety net is gone. It becomes a best out of 3 series against the reigning defending undisputed NBA champions. We do not want any of that. So I expect Mike Brown and his coaching staff to make a whole lot of adjustments, and the Kings could go into Game 4 on Sunday at 3:30, hopefully with a big bounce-back win, as we can get potentially an opportunity to close the Warriors dynasty at our home building. That's going to do it for the first of 2 episodes of Let 'Em Know Kings. You can find this show, which is free and available, on Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, Anchor.fm/CLESK, or you can download the Spotify for Podcasters app on your iTunes or Google Play stores. Please give the show a follow on the platforms. Turn on your notifications so you know about the next episodes, which drops tonight after Cavs and Knicks Game 3. Please rate and spread the word out to your friends about the show. I'm Skylar Weisberg, and until next time, no matter where you go, be prepared to let them know. I'll be back tonight to recap Cavs and Knicks Game 3. Until then, peace.